Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video. Today I am using a brand new step set from the Gina K release. This is called Birds of a Feather. How beautiful are these images? I cannot even. Totally love them. They're fuchsias and hummingbirds. And even though colored pencils are not always my friend, we're going to use them today. So originally on my practice piece, which I will show you, because I think it's important for you guys to know that we also practice, even when we're, making videos. A lot of times you're seeing it for the first time with something that I'm not super confident with, like colored pencils. I do practice, mostly because I wasn't confident in my ability to color the bird. So here I have sped this up. We're doing a little bit of distress ink blending, because on my practice piece, I felt like the background was a little bit meh. And it needed a little something. And so, what am I using but my latest go-to color combination? Yeah, Uncharted Mariner again. I'm not sorry. So I used Salty Ocean, Mermaid Lagoon, and Uncharted Mariner to do just kind of like a halo effect so that the center of the card kind of draws your eye. Obviously, I don't ink blend this fast. It is sped up because colored pencils take me 1 million years. And so I needed to save that time so that we weren't here for forever, but that you could still see the whole card. So once this is stamped down on my practice piece, I actually used, here I put it in there and I got all my stamps lined up and then I didn't put my magnet on. Isn't that grand? So I had to readjust. But on my practice piece, I used Gina's Whisper Amalgam ink, and that does work as a no-line ink, even on colored cardstock. And I just wanted to show you here that is what I originally stamped it with, and that's what I colored my practice piece with. But once I added the distress blending on the edges, it was a little bit challenging to see the pieces parts that had the additional color. And so because of that, I am going to stamp down in blue ink. Gina is the cat's pajamas. And so if you're a matchy person, this will work out well for you because this is her blue raspberry cardstock. And she also has blue raspberry ink that matches it. So all of her inks and cardstocks match and color coordinate and is the best beautiful way to make all your things match. So I went ahead and stamped it in the blue. This is that practice piece that I was telling you about. And so originally I didn't add the inking, like that you can see the top right hand corner has no inking. And then so I tried to see if the amalgam ink would still work, and it didn't. So I just tried a couple of different things. As far as technique goes for putting the colored pencils down on the paper, there's two techniques going on here. I am starting with my lightest color when there's an area that has no detail that I need to retain. So I'm just filling it in with my lightest color and then working out to my darkest color, and then from the darkest back out to my lightest. The same way that I approach my Copics. When you're coloring with colored pencils, you're trying to fill the tooth of the paper so that the colors will blend nicely together and you don't get any of those splotchy parts of the paper that show through. And in order to do that, you have to build up your layers. Now you can do this if you want more vibrant color by using like a white base coat. I've done that in the past. But here my lighter colors were pretty light, and so I felt like it was okay to go ahead and skip the white. They were still showing up vibrantly enough on the blue cardstock that I was happy with the way that they looked. The other technique that I'm going to be using to retain the detail in the images is mapping. And so I think a lot of times, and this has happened to me in the past as well, before I got more comfortable with no line coloring, and honestly, even with Copics, I'm still not super comfortable with it. If you can believe it, I'm more comfortable with no line coloring with colored pencils than I am with Copics, just because there's a finer point on them and I feel like I have more control. But in order to retain the detail, instead of going in with my lightest color first, I'm actually going to go in with my darkest. And I'm going to use my darkest color to go right over the lines that are already stamped there. Not the outside edge, just the detail, just the detail lines. So in this particular leaf, I just went over the center line and then the kind of like the veins that come off of it in order to retain those so that as I'm adding my color, it doesn't get blobby that, like, the blobbiness was my worst enemy when it came to no line coloring, because I wasn't doing anything to retain the detail. And so then after I had colored everything in and I had this really great shading, I still didn't have any detail because I didn't do anything to keep it. So yeah, if you go in with your darkest color or even one of your like darker midtones and just do a little bit of mapping to keep it, it will go a long way toward guiding the rest of your coloring. So those are the two techniques that I'm using: lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest, and then mapping first and then lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest. You have to build up a lot of layers. I typically, when I am doing no line coloring with colored pencils, I usually pick a neutral background. I do a craft cardstock or a gray, a white, like that's more traditional. But I had just received this in the mail, this blue, and I got a teal one and a light teal one too. This is great heavyweight cardstock. So this is a 100-pound cardstock. This is thicker than even I normally use. My Nina is 80-pound, but it's super thick. And I just thought, well, wouldn't this be pretty as kind of using this as like my blue sky background and then doing some really bright, vivid coloring on top of it. And that's kind of how we got here. So this whole video is pretty much just me coloring this image, because there is a lot here, and colored pencils do take a little bit longer because you have to build up all those layers in order to make it like really kind of sing. You have to build up the layers, because if you can still see the colored pencil strokes and you don't have good blending, it's just maybe isn't going to look the way that you want it to look or have the detail that you want it to have. So with that said, there will be parts where I show you real time, like what this looks, well, I shouldn't say real time, slower than 400%. And there's be times where it's going to be super sped up. The only thing that I didn't like super speed up is the majority of the bird. I think the second time I colored, like the second layer of wings I did, I might have sped that up, but the majority of the bird is just in regular time. And I really wanted to, leave that part in because it can be sometimes very challenging when you have an image like this where it's very detailed. It's a beautifully drawn image. The illustrator, her name is Hannah, did such a fantastic job. And so like I said, even going in, I doubted my ability to color this bird and make it look as realistic as possible. You guys know that is something that I like to do. And in fact, I was having a conversation with my friend Dawn about this card because I was like, I'm a little worried that the bird is going to get lost in the blue because I'm doing it like the hummingbird that I chose has purple wings, has like a cobalt blue kind of throat, and then a teal body. And I'm already working on blue cardstock, which we'll have to come back to the picking of the colors. Remind me to do that. So like I was a little worried that it would get lost, but really that lighter teal color is so bright. I don't think the bird does get lost. I think that it does a really good job of just kind of showcasing this beautiful hummingbird because they are all stunning. So anyway, when she and I were talking, she was like, well, what if you do the fuchsias orange? And I was like, I don't think I should put orange over blue, girl. I don't think I should do it. And then she was like, well, what if you do the bird, like the ruby throated ones? And I was like, but the ruby ones are green. And then my whole card is pink and green. And so there's all this like kind of behind the scenes thought that goes into it. So ultimately, the colors that I chose because I knew I was working on blue cardstock. And that is something that you do want to keep in mind, because even though you are putting these colors over top of, you know what I mean, they are more opaque. Everybody always comments about how I say that. Anyway, your blue still acts kind of like your base color. And so if you're coloring on blue, you want to use colors that will work nicely on blue. So I knew going into it that I was going to be choosing colors. Like I chose to color my fuchsias with the pink on top and the purple blossom on the bottom, because blue is my base. I chose my bird, the blues, the teals, the purples, because blue is my base. If I was going to do like an orange flower, I would not necessarily choose or blue as my base, because orange and blue are complementary colors, and when they mix together, it isn't always necessarily the prettiest shade, and they just might not be as vibrant if you maybe chose to put them on a different color. Like if you chose to put orange on, I don't know, a dark red cardstock, I think the orange would be much more vivid. So just keep that in mind when you're picking your colors. Like I said, for the fuchsias, I chose to do them pink and purple. My purple and pink are relatively similar to each other on the color scale. Some of the colors I did duplicate in each one, but I think it's okay. I think that they look different enough that you can tell that they're two different colors. But you know, if not, if they all end up looking the same color, I was also okay with that. And so you just kind of have to know going into it, like how adaptable you're willing to be. So yeah, this card, I'm going to be honest with you. Like I have been obviously creating a lot of cards lately. We've discussed that, you know, doing this more on a full-time basis. And I feel like I am producing cards that I am consistently happy with, which makes me happy. I think that anybody, like anytime you make a card and you're like, hey, this one is really better than I thought it was going to be, is a wonderful feeling in any place in your art journey. And this card was like that for me, probably because I went in with so little confidence in my ability to color the bird. Here, we're going to go back. So the stamen for these, this particular color combination of fuchsias are typically pink. And so you just want to make sure with something as fine lined as this that you really are sharpening your pencils and you have a fine tip going in. And then for the ends of the stamen for that yellow, I'm also going to sharpen it to make sure that I can get into just those little areas and it doesn't look sloppy or messy. And then with that said, the flowers are done and we're going to move on to the bird. The bird has a lot of detail, but if you follow along with the lines that are there, you're already going to be off to a very good start. So here you can see I went in and I'm mapping out those details to make sure that I can keep them. I really think that this is one of the things where that blobbiness comes into effect, and why I was so discouraged with my coloring in the past is because I wasn't doing any mapping, and so I wasn't retaining that detail, and so this wing ended up just looking like one solid like feather. It had no intricacies that would indicate that they were separate feathers. It just ended up looking like one solid feather because I didn't retain that detail. And now going in and doing it, you know, with my darkest color and kind of retaining that detail, I'm much happier with the way that it looks. So anyway, back to what I was saying. Like this card was one of those cards for me that I was really happy with, and I do think that it is due to my lack of confidence when I was going into it. But I just wanted to say that like I am aware that I can do this. And I can be at home more, and I can make these cards and express myself creatively for two very big reasons. First of all, the support of my family, whether that's my immediate family, like I can do this because my husband provides my health insurance and the health insurance for my children. I can do this because on the months that maybe I don't make as much money, he's willing to work extra for me. I can do this, I shouldn't say for me, for our family. I can do this because on the week that I don't have, you know, a daycare as an option, my mom and Eric's mom step up to take care of my child so that I can get some work time in. So it really does take a village, and I'm grateful for the one that I have. And then the second reason that I can do this and, you know, I can be at home with my family and spend more time with my kids is because of you. That's that's the reality of it. If you weren't consistently coming to my channel to watch my videos, if you weren't consistently buying through my affiliate links, if you weren't consistently helping me along on my journey to, ask me, hey, I'd like to do this and it's not working, or this is the idea and it's not, coming together, pushing me to do different things in different videos, coming here and sharing your lives with me, as well as me sharing mine with you, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it's not always pretty. Like without your, support and, I guess loyalty to making sure that you do you spend your time with me, and it's precious time. I understand that I'm very selfish with my time. And I never realized that until I had kids, but I'm very aware of where my time is spent and how it is spent. I try to be on top of that and to give a little bit to everywhere it needs to go. And sometimes I fall short of that, but I am very grateful that you choose to spend your precious time coming here and spending time with me. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that and to say thank you for your support and for supporting my family, supporting my art, helping me to grow, sharing your own experiences with me. Just very, very grateful. That is where I'm at today. I am very grateful for the opportunities that have been afforded to me, and the helpers and support system that God has put in place in my life. I'm very blessed, and acknowledging that. I had recently, not that recently, I try to let it go. Let's go back to the coloring for a second. So here I colored my wings purple, but I did take my teals up into my wings a little bit, so that the colors would kind of blend a little bit more seamlessly. We are talking about feathers here. We're not talking about, things that are disconnected. They aren't, even though they look like different sections, they aren't different sections. This is all one bird body. And so I just wanted to make sure that they looked cohesive. For the little go-between part here, between the main body and the wings, I used my teals, coming back to that realistic way that they look. So in my practice piece, you may have noticed, I actually did their beak orange because that is what I expected. Newsflash, this particular, I don't even know if that's true of any hummingbirds, but in this particular hummingbird, they're black. They are black. And so I did use a little bit of black, but I used a lot of dark blue as well, especially so I could shade it into the face. And then started working on just kind of filling in that body here. And before I color over this section, I am going to go in and map out the little detail lines for the feathers. I do end up adding kind of my own additional detail lines into the rest of the body. Not necessary, but I felt like it needed a little something. Just like the same way with the section of the wing, you're going to see that I also add additional lines there. I feel like it just flowed better, and you can do whatever works for you. This is just how I envisioned my bird. But yes, they have black beaks. I didn't know that. And somebody shared with me, which I also thought was fascinating. I had a flamingo card a couple of weeks back, that flamingos are not born pink. They get that color from eating shrimp. Fascinating. I love facts. But anyway, what I was going to say is this was quite a few months ago, or a few weeks ago, that somebody had made a comment. And it's not somebody that frequents my channel. I did not recognize the name. Who made a comment on one of my videos. And obviously when you are out here, on social media, on YouTube, when you're putting it out there, you're putting it out there for everybody, not just the nice people. And that's just something that you have to realize is a risk that you are taking. And I recognize that, and I try to rein myself in. I try to remain respectful. And so anyway, this person had commented on one of my videos that all of my talking gave them a headache. Now, she has no idea what my situation is. She has no idea that if I leave story time out of a video, my regular viewers are upset. She has no idea that I try to find a balance between teaching you the things that I know about art and the things that I've learned about the card that I'm making and sharing my personal life with you, she has no idea. But she feels the need to leave this comment, which is fine. And so my response to her was, I will not apologize for being too much. If you do not like my channel, go find less. Go find less. And that is genuinely how I feel. Well, I am extraordinarily grateful for the core group of people that I have that support me on my channel. I am also not a doormat. I am a real person on the other end of this microphone who is living my life, and I will not apologize. I will never apologize for being too much for somebody else. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And while a younger, less mature version of myself would not have been able to be that respectful, I'm glad that I'm at a place where I can do it now. But it's just like those comments are just so unnecessary. Let's go back to the card real quick. So here you can see where I drew those little cups. They're like little half C shapes. And I drew them kind of sporadically. They aren't lined up. They're just kind of here and there throughout the body with first the darkest teal color and then the medium teal. This isn't anything. It's just little detail lines. It's not anything that has to be super specific. And then we're going to go in and touch those up even further as we move along. I know we're almost there because there's not that much left of the video, y'all. But anyway, if you are a person who is on the Instagram or is on the Facebook and you have not run across Elise Myers, I would highly recommend checking her out. She's very encouraging. She's a wonderful person on social media, and she is where I heard the go find less. And I just thought that was absolutely brilliant, because my whole life, by boys that I have dated or people that I was friends with or people that I have worked with, because I am very straightforward, because I have no issue asserting myself and saying what I mean, because I am very direct, I've been told multiple times in my life that I am too much. And I'm with her, man. Go find less. Nobody's holding a gun to your head. Go find less, please. So that's it. That's what I got. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Here, what we're doing on the card is I'm using a white colored pencil to just put in some highlights. I use those to put right on top of those little C shapes to give almost like an iridescent look. I used them on the wings to kind of break up each feather. And then I am further going to use them on the topmost layers of my fuchsias. I did not use the white on any of the leaves. I didn't feel it was necessary. That yellow that I used is pretty bright, so I didn't really feel like it would have added anything to add a highlight to that. But ultimately, very, very happy with the way that this card turned out. Now, you guys know that I cannot resist adding a little bit of shimmer, and birds' feathers are kind of iridescent, and so they should have glitter, and that's how I feel about that. So I am going to add some glitter. The sentiments, the script in this stamp set is beautiful. And so there's a couple of different sentiments. I chose to go with the thank you one so I could use this card to send to somebody special, but also to go along with my whole theme here of just being grateful for those of you who accept me as I am and take what I have to give you and share with me what the experiences that you have. Very grateful, very thankful. So here I treated it with my anti-static tool. I am stamped it in Versamark, and then I am going to heat set it in white. Again, I just felt like this would kind of pop off that blue background. You certainly could do another color. You could do a darker one. The background isn't so dark that you couldn't do that, but I just really liked the white. In order to make it pop even further, I'm going to take my darker blue colored pencil. Not the darkest one. I think this was my medium one that I used, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of a shadow. I'm not going to color over the embossing because you can add, they're wax. The colored pencils are wax based, so you can color over the embossing if you're not careful, but I just put it right next to it with a sharp tipped colored pencil to kind of make it pop off the page. And then I use these clear gems, which almost kind of look like water droplets, which like I am here for. I just smacked my coffee cup. Did you hear it? It made a little ding. But I'm totally here for like these little water droplet look. So I put those on to kind of accent my sentiment. And then we are going to put that glitter on, like I told you, dotting it on the little feather details, as well as going over not all of the feathers, but just doing kind of like a line on each of the lightest parts, to give it a little bit of glitter and a little bit of shimmer. And then I put it on just the pink parts of the fuchsias. And that's the whole card. So if I haven't said thank you enough already, I'm going to say thank you again for spending your time with me. Genuinely appreciate you guys. And I will catch you on the next video. Bye.